My name is Gary Butterfield.
My name is Cole Ross.
You're listening to Best Quality Vacuum, the Duckfeed show about Breaking Bad, El Camino, and Better Call Saul. And you're listening to the Season 3 wrap-up.
Wrap up, baby. We're talking about that DVD. We're reading your responses. And getting ready for Season 4. It's hard to believe we are more than halfway through this series.
Time to get box cut, baby.
Mm-hmm.
I got to pick up a DVD of Better Call Saul, like a big compilation, so I can get all those special features and such.
Yeah, I have put out basically looking for sales alerts on those. So,
I got a mea culpa I got to throw out here. We talked about this in the green room. So they changed the menu of this DVD on this season. At least I'm pretty sure they did. They made deleted scenes as part of the episode menus as opposed to a special feature. And I just fucking missed them. It's embarrassing. You can be mad at me if you want to, listeners. I just fucked up. Usually there's not super impactful. No. They're like, lingering shots, and the rest of the special features have stuff to talk about. And I watched all those. But yeah, it's just, boy, I would love to do away with, things being tied to a disc.
Yeah, it'd be great. It'd be pretty great.
Switching between discs to even navigate the special features, even though you can select them all from every disc.
I see the place. I see the place for physical media. I think it's pretty important given what we've seen about the way streamers act. Blu-rays could be better. I think they're misbegotten in a lot of ways.
If I were let's say either case, we're just altering reality. Yes. Right? Like we're just wishing a thing, or I would wish for streamers to be less shitty and do away with physical media.
Yes.
Like I see the need of it too, because, people are assholes, but I would rather them just not be assholes.
Yes.
I should be able to have Breaking Bad and have all this shit. I don't even know who made money from this DVD when I bought it on 3 different discounts on I don't know, some weird clearance thing. Like somebody made pennies for me to have access to these, and made it confusing and inconvenient to get to.
Yeah. So we're putting the system on trial for the fact that we're recording this pretty much up against the wall on schedule.
Yes. It's my fault, right? Like I'm just saying if we were wishing, but it's certainly my fault. So if you got me mad, send your hate mail to @plumberduck on Twitter.
So we can hit the kind of the high points of those deleted scenes. Not all of them. I made notes of all of them, but just, there are some that give context, right? Like in the No Moss, the first episode where, the twins do their walking away from explosion thing, we get unused footage from multiple angles on that.
Yeah. It makes sense. We find out later they only had enough explosives for one explosion. So it makes sense for them to shoot it, get it really wide coverage on that.
It'd also be kind of a nightmare to try and find another spot in that big field that was not scorched by a gigantic Hollywood style fireball.
Yes. Yeah. So it makes sense for them to do that, even though in terms of value, seeing an explosion from different angles is not that insightful. It's cool that they have it. It makes sense that they would have it, but it's that's the deleted scene thing. Sometimes.
It is how the sausage is made kind of stuff.
Yeah.
So the scene where Saul drops in on Walt at the Beachcomber, you don't write, you don't call, that kind of thing. There's a little bit of extended dialogue in the middle where Saul pretty much says I know why you're here. I've actually been here before. The Beachcomber, it's last train on the Loser Express. So after one of his many divorces, Saul ended up on a bit of an interim stay here.
Living at Hotel de Kirk, with
adult boarding house.
Yeah. Yes, an adult boarding house.
Yeah. Go ahead.
Yeah. No, I was gonna say, tell me more. We're doing book report stuff, and again, I apologize.
Something that I thought was interesting, kind of in the way that the multiple explosion angle was interesting. So there's an extended version of the scene where Marie drops Hank off when he's on his way to El Paso. They extend the argument on that, and it's kind of cute because it seems like Hank's going to leave on her crying and him mad, but then comes back and tries to comfort her, which is good. The thing that's interesting about it to me is during the version that they have on the DVD, it's not like final sound mix. So Betsy Brandt, who plays Marie, has laryngitis, and you see her like speaking through that, and then they would go back and then do ADR. Now, do you want me to explain what ADR is?
No, I know. No, why did you say that? I know what ADR is.
No, I'm making a joke because every commentary explains what ADR is.
Okay,
I was not condescending to you
because I read there for a second. Do you want me to explain me kicking you in the shin? I'm going to see you in a couple of days, man.
I know.
Like it's play with live ammo. No, that's it is a thing that people insiders love to explain as if it is forbidden knowledge. It's like a whole set of filmic Doki Doki facts.
Yeah.
It reminds me of like, did you know for gaming shit? It's just a different ecosystem.
Yeah. So it's kind of in the same vein as somebody who wants to explain to you the Wilhelm scream.
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh, I've heard that scream before. Is that same character here? Oh no, my friend. Therein lies the legend. Yeah. Audio engineers need to feel something.
From the same episode from Greenlight there, in case you thought the scene with Hank interrogating the cartoon druggie was not long enough, in case you wanted more of this guy, oh man, there's like twice as much. They shot twice as much.
You keep going. This guy, this is golden. Just riff. His name began with like a B. He had eyes. Yes, Vince Gilligan just writing down, making check marks over and over on a yellow legal pad.
Circling it 5 times.
Underlining. Just ludicrous. Yeah. Ludicrous.
Skipping ahead here from Fly, this is just in a line that I like, but I could understand seeming a little bit redundant. Walt is pointing out a speck of dirt on the outside of one of the tanks. This is before the Fly shows up, right? And just like, hey, well, that's really small. You can barely see it. Also, it's on the outside. And Walt says, Jesse, there is no outside. All of this inside.
Yeah, that's a great line.
Yes,
I could see having that there for sure.
There's a cute little 2-scene thing with Jesse and Brock and Abiquiu and Half Measures. And Abiquiu, Jesse, when he goes over to visit Andrea, brings Brock some toys. Just some little like dollar store impulse buy. This is what the bag says: cowboy and Indian toys to play with. Yeah. And he seems really disappointed that Brock isn't there. But in Half Measures, we get to see Jesse and Brock playing with the toys.
Aw. Yeah, a little continuity there.
Yeah.
It's Chekhov's toys.
Yeah.
If you see in one deleted scene toys, they have to be played with in another deleted scene.
Yeah. There's some good stuff in Full Measure. So the cold open when Walt and Skylar are going to see what would become their house. They're leaving. They're outside. And Walt and Skylar get into their car, which is a Porsche convertible. It's like a 911 something or other. Later on in the episode, when Walt Jr. is trying to have the conversation about him getting his car when he gets his permit, it's very cute because he's explaining like, oh, how awkward it would be. It behooves us to have a third car, and they bust his chops about that. Like, oh, it behooves us, doesn't it?
Yeah, very funny.
And Walt Jr. tries to play it off, like, oh, there's no sense explaining it to you, Dad. Why I want a cool car. You drive an Aztec, and Walt says, no, you wouldn't believe it, but I used to drive a Porsche. Right. Yeah. And then he underlines it, saying like all the cool stuff about it. And just, Skylar jokes. So you had to like have a shoehorn to fit into the thing. And Junior asks, well, why don't you still have it? And Walt kind of clams up and just like doesn't explain and changes the subject.
I sold it for you.
Yeah.
I lost I walked away from my job like an idiot, and then also had baby.
Yep.
Baby expensive little man.
And then one thing that doesn't add up to much, but is very cute to see, we get more time with Mike and Kaylee in the car doing this almost like a who's on first kind of routine with him, whereas like, who are you? You remind me of who? The man with the powder of voodoo. And they're just like power of voodoo rather. And they're just kind of like going back and forth and like she's laughing and losing it from this like fun little rhyme kind of thing. Cute. Very cute. I like Mike and Kaylee time.
I do too. Yeah. All seems like very cute and mildly additive in a show without commercial breaks.
Yes.
If it were just like on modern streaming where episodes are just as long as they need to be.
Yeah.
But I understand. Sounds like I understand why they're cut. The other special features in this, I think this is a really good batch.
Yes.
Compared to what we've seen so far. And I did watch these and they're great.
Gary, I've got bad news.
No. Did they get worse?
No.
Or you didn't watch them? Okay.
Yeah.
Sorry. I feel like I'm not picking up on your jokes today. And I apologize for that.
I'm being a little dry.
It's probably my fault. I don't, apologies for that. Yeah. Weird headspace. We're both getting ready to put this in context. We record the show very far in advance. We're recording this right before we go to Milwaukee. And Cole and I are both, you so more than me. I'm not saying that as a dig, just to acknowledge your pain.
Yeah.
Get more anxiety around travel.
Yes.
But I get anxiety about having, 4 days that I can't work on stuff and getting behind, and also get anxiety about travel.
Yes.
Afraid I'm going to forget something, I'm going to miss my flight, oversleep, all that shit keeps fucking with me. So like, it's been a weird couple days.
Yes. Yeah. Basically, the 2 weeks leading up to a trip like this are disasters for us.
It's like the 2 weeks and then the 1 week after are all hard. So basically, we do this and it takes us out for a month, and there's only 12 of those in a year. It's not like we get tons of them. So it's please have some patience. Listen, we appreciate. But these are all good. So the first one is White Heat, Cranston on Fire. And it's showing from season 3, episode 1, the part where Bryan Cranston sets his money on fire.
Yes.
And how they did that. And it's very funny and charming because they actually do it. It's not digital. They feel like they could have done it that way, given what they do digitally later. But they coat his arms in fucking Carl Havoc stuff. He's got too much shit on him.
He does.
It's all flammable shit. It's really good.
So they're just really slathering them up with fireproof gel and then putting on basically Hulk hands that are made of some kind of silicone that is heat resistant, right?
Yes.
And then, he only wears those in the one shot where he is slapping at the money stacks that are on fire and then pushing the grill into the water.
He wears it during the water splashing outside of the pool scene as well.
Yeah.
And that you'll never be able to watch that again if you watch the special feature.
No.
Because if you know to look for it, he's definitely got fucking floppy salad fingers.
Yeah, no, this dude is
He looks like
Everlong.
E.T.
Yeah. He's Everlong over
horrible.
there. Yeah.
And Bryan Cranston, what a fucking treasure. He looks down at his hand melting and starts screaming in horror just for the audience after the take.
Yeah, just for the crew because the gloves are slipping off. Yeah,
it's very funny. Like I would laugh really hard at that. Like I love what a good little man. What a good guy.
What a fun joke.
Yeah, this is very funny.
Yeah, I also thought it was interesting to see like the rig that they had for the shot where it's kind of like looking through the flame up into his face, like that cool propane burner kind of thing.
Yeah,
they had.
Little stunt line of fire.
Yeah,
kind of thing. Yeah. That's real cool. Great little scene and little story how they did it. Maintaining Breaking Bad's dedication to doing something in a real way when like not doing it real would probably suffice. But this one is more successful than the Jesse floating heroin one.
Yeah.
The next one, there's Pizza of Destiny, Cranston's greatest shot. This is about throwing the pizza. And it is explicitly a comedy short.
Yes.
It's got very dramatic voiceover and everything. But there's fun, like little details in this. There's, they kept going for bigger and bigger pizzas, it's like need bigger.
Yeah. It's missing the detail that like they got a bunch of them in order to get multiple takes and then he nailed it in one. So they had all this pizza left over.
Yeah. Just tons of uncut pizza. Like everyone come up and take a bite.
Just grab a hunk.
Yeah, just, like use the serving spoon that we all share in the writers' room.
It's but like the entire presentation of it, it's like a sports documentary. It's kind of the same tone of like talking about being there for the immaculate reception or something like that.
Yeah, like an athlete on the level of Cranston.
Yeah.
And Bryan Cranston's playing it very straight. Like when you think about throwing a pizza, you don't think about the weight of it, the angle of it, the box. It's very cute. Like it's a funny little scene. What is less funny but amazing is Silent but Deadly, the brothers Moncada. Which is about the twins, Louis and Daniel Moncada, just being the most charming motherfuckers on the planet.
I wanted this to be feature length.
I never feel this way. So like this is on me, right? But you get that feeling sometimes, like, and this is again on me. But sometimes you like look at somebody with a bunch of gang tattoos, who's really tough and bald and looks angry, and I think that's the opposite of me. I probably don't have that much in common with this guy.
Right.
It's not, I have no hate in my heart, but I'm just like, what would I do if I was stuck in an elevator with this guy? I want to hang out with these guys so badly.
Oh my God. Yeah.
It's like, Patreon Gold have us like fly out and just have lunch with these dudes. And we're not going to record it or talk about it.
Nope.
We're just going to hang out and it's just for self-care. Look it up, sweetheart. It's be like just for us to have a good time.
Oh my gosh, but it's just them. They're having so much fun and they're geeking out about all the stuff that they got to do.
Yep.
And, kind of similarly, right? Like, okay, the way this person has chosen to present themselves does not line up with a lot of my own life experience, right?
Yes.
People sometimes sort based on visual information, right?
Of course.
I also am a little bit like skeptical, or like it feels like, okay, sure. When somebody says like, they don't look like it, but they're the sweetest person. They're the sweetest person in the entire world, right?
Especially
in
this ecosystem.
Yeah.
Well, in this ecosystem as well, where that's 90% of the things that people say behind the scenes.
Yes.
It's wild how much better these DVD behind the scenes features are than the podcast.
Yes.
Like, which is only just people calling each other sweet. And like, that just has very little value. Like, you have to say that. You're not just going to talk a bunch of shit about the person you have to go to work with the next day. And then also, like, just being told you're somebody sweet doesn't really do anything. You have to see the charisma.
Yeah. You have to see these brothers like making each other laugh.
Yeah, busting each other's balls and stuff, now he looks more like me, so he's more handsome, like all this like real cute stuff. They moved to Honduras, to LA. Louis went to jail a bunch and eventually started working on security for movies. And the guy came over. He doesn't say which movie it is.
Right.
But a director came over. Yeah. Asked him if he wanted to be in the movie. And then because of that, he started acting. And when the real cute scene, like when they found him, they were like, hey, I wish we had two of these guys. And they were complimenting his tattoos. He's like, oh yeah, my brother just got a tattoo. And they're like, your brother?
Yep.
Shit, like bring him in.
Uh-oh.
And it has the same charm as an Arnold Schwarzenegger movie commentary.
Yes.
Where like, he does something on screen and then you just get this, you hear Arnold Schwarzenegger like, this was awesome when I got to do that. It's them doing that. Like I got to shoot somebody. I just want to keep hitting that guy with an axe. This is the part where I eat the apple. It's so good.
Oh man, the director called cut, but I just wanted to keep swinging.
Just having fun. I love the bit where they're like, it's so easy to get in character with this. Like you put on the suits and the boots, and you just feel like the coolest motherfucker in the world, and it's instant. And like you can kind of see it. Yeah.
The first thing that they had to do on the show was the shot walking away from the explosion. Which is pretty intense if you're not used to being around explosions, but also to be told you can't flinch at all.
Yes.
Or else you're going to cost us tens of thousands of dollars.
Yeah. We only have enough explosion for this explosion.
Yeah.
And they nailed it. Like they did such a good job. There's also a lot more production insight stuff that is interesting in this in a more palatable and quick package. Like just these guys being like, yeah, they put, holes in the trunk and I was wearing a brace. So when they did the backup shot, like that's stuff that gets meted out in the commentary and podcast in between thousands of compliments and just like, vapid content. Yeah. And I just wanted hearing the person just say it. Like these are so much better than either of those other forms of getting information.
Yeah. I don't want to have it described, how difficult it was to get into makeup and costume for this. I want to have the person tell me how much it fucking sucked.
Yeah. And just exactly. And just like, yeah, this is what I did. They cut this thing out, and it's just directly just saying it, and with a sense of wonder about movie making that has no back padding because he didn't do it. There's a thing that happens with these sometimes where it does, it can feel a little back patty when they get a shot, even when it's cool. I really like this. More of this.
Yeah, this was a standout to me.
Yeah, I really liked it. Also, I really like Team Science. SCIENCE. This is a Jesse Pinkman production. It's a little cartoon animatic thing he made.
Yeah, it's like a crappy 3D hybrid cartoon about the superhero adventures of Dr. Chemistry, who is Walt, and then him, who is Rewindo.
And he includes all of his superheroes he made up and all of his friends.
Yes.
Who are in there. So it's like he keeps adding people to the Justice League. Like Mighty Blowfish. I love Rewindo getting his powers in a microwave accident, which I think was canonical to Rewindo's first reference. But when you hear microwave accident, I think of like the character Microwave from Freedom Force. Okay. Not a literal appliance. And he was it's just a microwave in a kitchen going nuts. It's not like microwaves from, science shit.
Yeah.
Really cute. And at the end, they show at first he's fighting zombies for some reason, and he fights Tuco and a bunch of walkers, and then they fight Hell's Jesters. I really like Hell's Jesters.
Hell's Jesters is good.
That will always work on me. Here's a bunch of evil clowns in suits. They're Hell's Jesters.
Yeah. He put Badger in as a shapeshifter, and Skinny Pete is literally skinny. He can get into tight places. Yeah.
Flat Man from the Great Lakes Avengers.
Yeah. And Combo as Multiple Man.
Yeah. He's his own backup. Jesse Pinkman delivers this with a really intense, gravitas. There's a song about needing a hero that Badger sings. It's great. It's a very cute little scene. This I know is on YouTube because I watched it again because I thought it was cute.
Yeah. Love the credit executive producer and drawer.
Drawer is really good. Also very funny are all of the AMC.com Better Call Saul commercials. I had a thought during this that is not a real thought, but I tried on a thought for size, which is that I don't do crimes. And I don't really need a lawyer or anything, but I did kind of want an excuse to call Saul or have Saul Goodman be my lawyer. Cause there's a kind of, and it's just because I like the character and I like how much he's a little shit. Yeah. Even if he's a bad person, but I was like, this seems fun to be one of these guys and get fitted for a neck brace.
Yeah. To be party to a scam.
Yes.
Yeah.
And I don't have the wherewithal, or the guts to start scamming.
Oh no. I would flip immediately.
Yeah.
Not because I'm I love cops or anything. I just can't handle the pressure.
I would flip to the person I was scamming. It wouldn't even be a cop. I would just be like, what? I was going to try to do this and I'm sorry. I'm trying to, I'm sorry because of all the screaming and I'm sorry. And that would be the end of it. But there's something about, a confidence man like this that is just immensely charming. Peter Gould wrote all these and it feels like Peter Gould stuff. You can see him taking an early direct interest in this character. Prior to Better Call Saul. And these are all funny.
Yes.
To me.
Yeah, like the first one, which is, explaining that he can get you off the hook for illegally owning a tiger. Yeah. Just remember this one simple phrase. That's not my tiger.
Not my tiger. Yeah. And if you don't need to bring the tiger into the office, I don't need to see it. And we're going to get the tiger down to Texas. Guess what? Tigers are legal in Texas. And then he puts on a cowboy hat. Yeehaw. As if this illegally owning a tiger comes up all the time. There's a Wayfarer class action lawsuit commercial. This is very funny. They have the different symptoms you can have, and they range from real to fake, of course. There's a kind of an abridged version of this that shows up in the show. Yeah. It also dates it directly to 2010 that's actually the next one rather. This one though, very funny, going through insomnia, uncertainty, general sense of not feeling so good, just any port in a storm.
Yeah. It's we have doctors on call to get you your
diagnosis.
Will
verify your diagnosis. Very funny.
Yeah, and it ends with him like holding a candle and looking off to the distance, and then he turns his head.
A fucking
and
reboot
zooms,
tear.
a fake tear rolling down his cheek.
Yeah, a tear reboots down his cheek. The one I was thinking of is this next one, which is like, who can I sue? Like, you might be thinking, you might want to get in on a big lawsuit, but you have no one to sue. Who can you sue? And they do a scroll at the bottom. And the thing you can date this directly to 2010 is because one of the things is furries.
Oh,
and
yeah.
Like, I get that. Like, here's 2010.
Yeah, different time.
Different time. I would have laughed at that joke in 2010.
Yeah, it probably wasn't cool to do it then, but yeah, no, different time.
But in terms of just like a group listed as a thing, it was a punchline in and of itself. It's not saying anything about furries.
Yeah. No, I'm just trying to think of what I could sue a furry for.
Yeah, there's that story around that time that contributed to a lot of furry stuff about them coming all over in a literal sense in that hotel.
Yeah.
Like leaving loads on windshields and shit. And like, at least for me, when I was, more, anti-furry because, again, in the water, like I'm no longer that contributed a lot to it.
Yeah.
Like this idea of just like stepping in a load in an elevator and being like, the fucking furry cons in here of it again. I don't want to step in a load.
Turns out that had more to do with exhibitionists. Yeah.
Exactly. Though that's not just, furries. That's just, it's like how, any, you say this all the time, like any minority group is not a monolith, right? Like, you go on Twitter and like it feel like, follow like a bunch of trans ladies who are funny and great. But they're so unrelentlessly ferally horny that like one of them had to do an apology post for coming out of as ace. And I was like, what the fuck, man? Like, this is so weird that the culture, and then I'm like, that feels like, if I were stupid and had like a little bit less experience, I'd be like, oh, this is a monolith. And then I think about our Slack and it's just like full of like, with all affection, normie trans people.
Yep.
And it makes me very happy. Like, it's just like, oh yeah, no, they're just people, you fucking idiots. Like, what are you so scared of? They're, it's not all absolutely ferociously horny, sex monsters.
Yeah.
Like,
that's a cartoon you made up in order to justify hating people.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And it's also just not representative. It says more about not, sex monster is not the right word. It says more about exhibitionism or super, it's the same with the furries, right? Yeah. It's just the parallel there. It has nothing to do with the fursuits. It has everything to do with like, they got off on putting loads in public.
Yeah. Lack of consideration. Come on.
Yeah. And it was hot to them to put a load in the elevator. And then the idea that somebody who was there to, work at the hotel stepped in the load was hot to them, but it had nothing to do with them dressing up as animals.
No.
No.
Okay. So that's something we could sue a furry for.
Yes. If you step in a load, call Saul. If you step in a furred load.
There's a little mailbag segment, just like, did I murder my husband?
Or the cops seem to think that I murdered my husband.
Yeah.
Let me stop you right there. Don't even say murder and don't even write it down. At this point, what kind of medications was he on? Was he old? Old people are on really strong medications. He might have dropped dead anyway. It's real good.
Yeah, and then talks about countersuing, like even you could get some PNS. That's pain and suffering money,
baby. And then we get testimonials from some characters we know and some new characters from this. Badger, for the incident of the cop DJ Qualls lying to him. Like, I'm actually an adult man.
Many such cases.
You liar, you fey. You fey trickster. But just like, then I was back with my homies burning one, which is what we call smoking.
Tobacco.
Tobacco, yeah. Very funny.
Yeah. And then there's like a group testimonial that includes Wendy. Sipping on her mug.
Yep. The implication that Saul is going to waive her legal fees in exchange for sex.
Yes.
Now, we get a special feature about the Aztec hitting the two drug dealers at the end of Half Measures. This is really impressive. Very. What they did, this whole idea. The guy who puts it together does say digital performers. That drives me nuts. I hate that phrase.
Yeah.
I get it, but it's just a money for nothing computer graphic guy. It's not a digital performer.
Yeah. But they talk about the process. Like, okay, we had to make an animated storyboard. Then we had to like block it out and understand where the cutoff was going to be. Shoot the plates, one for the dealers, one for the car. It's very funny when they shoot the one for the dealers because the one who's furthest screen right has to like bend over at the waist 90 degrees very quickly, which is not a natural movement to have to make.
No, and the other one kind of runs away. I really like the detail when they did the plate for just the car. They put down sandbags. So it would like the thump, run over the bodies. And it does look great. Like you look at it on screen, even them directly showing you that it's computer graphics. Like when they show it again, you can kind of see, like you could guess, but it does look really good.
Yeah, it doesn't break the illusion. And by the end of it, I thought it'd be like kind of inured to it. No, it still looks really upsetting even at the end.
No, it's very good.
Yeah.
There's a little AMC news visit to the writer's room. Which is just showing kind of their process, and their process is to like play with toys while they write, which makes sense. You do stuff with your hands while you're pitching ideas. They got really into crafts.
Yes.
At this point.
Yeah. Anna Gunn dropped by the Burbank, office and brought them some clay and pipe cleaners. They've got all this origami around and stuff. I'm a little like, so seeing stuff like this, like I totally get it. Like I fidget, I'm playing with the back scratcher right now. To totally understand. Anytime this is like shown as those wacky creatives, because I was part of like startup culture in the early 2010s around this, I know what this is cover for a lot of times. And so anytime I see it, the hair on the back of my neck fucking raises. Like,
yeah. Well, it's funny because Vince Gilligan's right there and he's like, people look at this and think we don't work. We actually put in like 10-hour days for 9 hours at a time, 9 days in a row.
It takes us 2 weeks to get a whole episode down.
Yeah. He explains like, how hard they're working, but it does look like an adult playpen. And it's just, there's one of them in here that I watched and you either missed it or wasn't worth talking about. I wanted to mention the music one.
Okay, yes.
Because they show the composer, they show Dave Porter, and then they show their music supervisor who picks licensed music for it, who looks just like Matt Berry in Dark Marenghi's Dark Place. It looks like I've never seen a human who isn't Matt Berry look more like a Matt Berry character than the music supervisor on Breaking Bad.
Yeah, I watched it. I didn't make a note of it just because there wasn't anything great. Yeah, there's nothing.
Yeah,
it's just like
there's nothing.
Vince wanted to use the song "Windy" for the Wendy opening.
Yep.
Cool.
The end, which we already knew, or just like we wanted to evoke the Southwest, but only kind of, not really.
Didn't want to make it a Western.
Yeah, like it's it's real wishy-washy. I just liked seeing these weird guys who, by rights should never appear on camera. Like does not feel like they, that would ever happen.
Yeah. The gag reel is very cute.
Gag reel is great,
primarily because of Anna Gunn.
Anna Gunn's very funny in it. I love her not being able to get out of the car. Very cute. And I will also watch these until I die. Like I will watch people break.
It's the funniest thing in the entire world. Like
it kills me.
For the love of God, just show me people corpsing. Save all of that.
I don't know what it is. It is literally the funniest thing in the world. The Tim and Eric did that medical thing, that Dr. Wareheim. And it's 4 episodes and they're all very funny, but the one that like has me cry laughing is the 4th one where it's just them corpsing. And it's just from saying, like them taking a sample of shit and be like, I'm going to go take this to the home lab. And that is just such a funny line that they can't get through it. And it's just really good. Like the home lab.
I just, it kills me every time. I don't know, like that has been around forever, the romantic comedy that has the outtakes and the credits or whatever. So like this is at the very least like Gen X normie shit that we're huffing on.
Sure. Like, this is the millennial cringe that we will decide to be in this case, but I don't give a shit because it makes me laugh, and laughter is a really honest reaction. Like
it brings me joy.
I could flex weird muscles I didn't know I had to try not to laugh.
Yeah.
And for what? to impress a TikToker.
To appease who?
Yeah.
I love Skyler closing the door on Walt when he has the pizza there, and then after a beat, opening the door just enough for her to reach out and take the dipping sticks,
and then shut it again. Very funny.
Yeah.
I think it's the scene where Ted shows up where they open the door and she's making out with a guy, like a random dude. I think that's when Ted showed up.
Yeah.
Oh, is this a good time? Very funny. Bryan Cranston has really weird energy during these. Like at one point, he just starts doing an accent.
He starts doing kind of a pretty like bad Japanese.
It's offensive. Yeah, he's doing like an old samurai.
Yeah,
voice, Hattori Hanzo voice.
Yeah, he mush mouths something and then it, like segues it into doing like a samurai ritual and like picking things up and kind of bowing.
Yeah, and it's, he's old man.
I'm not going to cancel.
I'm not going to cancel Bryan Cranston over it. It's just it's not super good. And then just also I love in corpsing, I love Jesse Pinkman not being able to get through the line Ebola, yo. It makes your intestines come out your asshole. Whatever. He just can't do it.
Nope.
And every time he can't do it, Bryan Cranston bonks him with the I made
with
this.
The fly swatter.
Yeah. This I made this. Very cute.
Yeah. The final special feature here is they recorded video during the recordings of the podcasts, and they released partial video versions of those. We've talked about the podcast and its many shortcomings, but it is this is hilarious and painful to see the production setup for it as somebody who does this. It's
very old school. Like this is how I did my first podcast in like 2007.
Yeah,
basically.
The ergonomics scary. Like everybody sitting on a leaning as far forward as they can on the
everyone's a human question mark.
On a tiny couch to reach an SM58 that is on a way too short little desk stand for it. So many pops and bumps. Kelly Dixon like having to like wrench her body around to look at them because the mic on her desk is not pointing in that direction.
It's very, they have to do 10 of them a year. So like, I get it from a perspective. Like I imagine, they just use it as another room. Like they don't have a dedicated studio space for this or anything. And it was kind of interesting to look at, just to see what people look like, so the people, but it's, it's mostly, you're right. Like reverse production porn.
Yes.
Production nightmares stuff, but a very specific, like podcasting production nightmares, which we don't get production nightmares very much. There's a whole Facebook account for music ones, but let's get into everyone's responses about season 3. Here.
Yeah, we've got some lingering ones from season 2 here that came in after the deadline, but I thought these were good. They provided extra context. I'll get started here with Billiam.
Yeah, friend of the show.
Yes, Billiam. I just listened to the season 2 finale episode. I live in New Mexico and thought I'd share a piece of local history that, if it didn't inspire the episode, rhymes with it a little bit. The mountains you can see behind Walter's house are the Sandias. On February 19th, 1955, TWA, do you see where this is going? TWA Flight 260 took off from the Albuquerque airport, destined for Santa Fe. It would have been a 15-minute flight tops. It was foggy that night, and instead of flying north to Santa Fe, the pilot went east toward the mountains. The plane crashed in a canyon, and all 16 people on board died. Because of where it crashed, the wreckage of the plane is still in the mountains more than a half century later. There's the engine, chunks of fuselage, a wing embedded into the canyon wall, and red plastic chairs scattered all around the crash site. It's a 6-hour hike round trip and a massive pain to reach, but it's one of the most haunting places in a state full of haunting places. Visitors who don't want to hike 6 miles uphill might be able to see it from the tram, which goes directly over the site. Again, not sure if this inspired the episode, but it's a strange piece of local history that I always associate with this plot in the show. So much of New Mexico's weirdest stuff is still out there in the desert, more or less preserved for those willing to make the trek.
Yeah. Someday in the future in Fallout, that's going to be a town.
Yep.
You're going to go find a rare companion there. That's really interesting.
They're going to call it Crashton. Yeah.
Exactly. That's a good reason not to have 15-minute flights.
Yeah.
Like even if the risk for a flight is relatively low, even today, even with all the news, like still relatively low, it is, you don't need to fly.
No, probably not.
Minutes. Yeah. That's great. I would like to see that. A bunch of chairs scattered around the place is always a surreal sight that I enjoy.
Yes.
Kieran says, "Hey guys, I know I'm late, but I wanted to write in about the air traffic portion of the final episode. Donald, played by the 61-year-old John Delancey, would be about 5 years too old to be a controller at TRACON, the Terminal Radar Approach Control, as the mandatory retirement age for controllers is 56. The job is simply too stressful and requires too much mental acuity to keep up past that age. Probably the nerdiest shit I've ever sent in. Useful.
Good to know.
I didn't know that. My understanding was no matter how many people you kill, you have a better chance of bringing those souls back to life than to firing those people. So you just kind of put them on smaller and smaller planes. Even though my understanding of that comes entirely from the Bedtime Stories episode.
Yeah. Oh gosh. Go check out the Unfilmable series we did on Bedtime Stories. Yeah.
Or just Bedtime Stories.
Stories.
That episode is so good. Split splash.
Yeah.
Milk goes in the bucket.
Yeah. Good to know. Also kind of comforting,
Yeah.
I don't know. Maybe my opinion will change when I'm 57 and I can't become an air traffic controller as my fallback.
There was time enough at last. No.
Oh, God. Adam writes, listening to Gary talk about how annoying fan theories are made me want to share the show that was the worst offender and how that helped me find a healthier way to engage with mystery shows. Westworld's creators were infamously upset that Redditors figured out the twist in season 1. So for season 2, they did an AMA and announced that they would air a trailer that laid out all of the twists ahead of time. While technically true, it was as up its own ass as you would think it would be. In fallout of that season, I decided that theories are fine and fun, but you can't be precious with them. I still love guessing along with a week-by-week mystery show, but I'm never upset that I was wrong.
Yeah, to clarify that position, I have no problem with guessing on the fan end.
Yeah.
I hate when it reaches the creators and then becomes this Ouroboros shit.
Yeah.
Where that part sucks.
Mm-hmm.
And because of the content dragon that must be fed, it always happens.
Yes.
Vanity Fair is going to put up a YouTube that's Jordan Peele reacting to the worst fan theories about Nope, as sure as the day is long.
Yes.
It's just going to happen. So it does I wish it was segregated. I think it's a weird dark side of access. Mm-hmm. We were never meant to have this much access to creators.
Not at all. No.
Not even a little bit. But that's good insight for Westworld because Westworld is a show I think took a giant dump. And it makes sense that they were maybe having a hard time with it. Westworld season 1 stands up pretty well. Mm-hmm. That's a good story on its own. And then season 2 is real. And then it gets more and more up its ass. And you can almost see the writers running away from the lost fed audience that is just trying to antagonistically outsmart them.
Yeah. It's a bad dynamic in a bad relationship. I also don't like it when people argue about their theories.
That's silly too.
You made that up. This doesn't need to be a confrontation. Fuck you. Stop polluting my air.
You literally made up a thing that isn't in the text. I'm not here to listen to your fan fiction without consent. John says, "Hi guys, love the show. Been doing my own retrospective of Breaking Bad and think that Gale can be interpreted as autistic. In Sunset, we learned that Gale doesn't like to look Walt in the eye. He's memorized an entire poem by Walt Whitman, which suggests that poetry is an intense special interest. He's using a vacuum pump to make coffee because he hates bitter flavors. He dislikes all the socializing he had to do in academia. He brought a CV for his first day at the crystal meth factory. This suggests that he doesn't understand social cues very well. I would love to hear your opinion on this, as I think it adds a whole extra layer of tragedy to Gus hiring Gale and using him to supplant Walter."
Yeah. I'm agnostic toward it. All of those are good points. I could bring up the fact that Gale understood the cue when Gus was telling him hey, learn how to cook fast so we can kill Walter. But also autism is a spectrum, and there are literally as many different kinds of it as there are people with it. So hard to say.
It doesn't feel like Hollywood autism to me. Given that he also shows a lot of emotion when Jesse shows up. That is a really extreme circumstance, but there's a lot of emotionality in that. Yeah. I generally, and I'm not calling out John for this because I don't know John. I'm not calling out anybody, but I try not to clock people. Yeah. I try not to diagnose fictional characters as anything. Yeah. I find the whole process a little bit distasteful. And yeah. Yeah, that's not for me to do. And then also, I don't necessarily know that it's super additive.
Yeah. I'm also of the opinion people can claim who they want to claim too. It doesn't affect me. Yeah.
No, that for sure. Like it doesn't hurt me if that adds something for you. It adds something for you.
Yes.
You know, and I couldn't take that away if I wanted to.
Nope.
I just, it doesn't.
It's not an activity that you or I really engage in.
Yeah. For me, I personally don't see the value in it.
Yes.
No.
If true, it would add tragedy to it.
Yes.
Yeah.
But
it's already really,
it can't
really
just be
tragic.
a regular murder. Yeah. It wasn't very tragic. And this really is the kind of sauce that makes it tragic,
Yeah.
If somebody gets murdered arbitrarily because of another man's ego, it is
That's
much
Vegas,
sadder.
baby. Yeah.
It's much sadder if they happen to have, if they're not neurotypical.
Yeah.
I know that's not what you're saying.
Yes.
I'm making fun of you. Or making fun of the attitude.
Right. Yes.
Yeah.
Is this me? I believe
this
it
is
you. Yes. Eric says, I recently went through a divorce, and this rewatch of season 3 has really been resonating with me. The dinner scene with Walter and Skylar really hit home. There are so many moments where appearances have to be maintained for the sake of the kids, and you do get that false optimism Walter feels that maybe things are getting better, but nothing has ultimately changed. Anyway, do you think that Gail is the, quote, least bad of the people that work for Gus this season? Libertarianism, coffee obsession, and show tune loving aside. He's just a little sandal-wearing chemistry nerd with a people-pleasing fetish. It's so tempting to be able to eliminate my mortgage, credit cards, and student loans without having to go full Heisenberg.
Here, there's two answers for this. The joke answer I have is the least guilty person who works for Gus Fring is always going to be Lyle.
Yeah.
The very, very good boy who works at Los Pollos Hermanos.
Yep.
The second thing is, Eric, my dude, are you fucking asking us if it's okay for you to start cooking meth? You got divorced and you don't want to become a murderer, but you want to get rid of your mortgage, your credit cards, and your student loans without having to go full Heisenberg? Because if that is what you're asking, the answer is unequivocally and legally yes.
Yep.
We think so, and we're on record.
Yeah, green means go.
Yeah, just fucking go for it, dude. Carpe diem, self-care. Look it up, sweetheart.
I don't know. It's hard to say because Gail definitely does have a body count under him for his work, for however much he makes on this. Is like least bad is still it's not great ground to stand on. I want to be conscious of me giving Gail slack because I see myself in him. Like there's a reason that all that shit in that apartment like called out. It's just like, oh no, this isn't exactly my kind of thing, but also I know exactly where this comes from.
Sure.
So
yeah. And it's also a thing where dealing with a show where you have to be at least a little bit like relative moralistically to appreciate the show.
Yeah.
Like you can come up and you can watch the show and just be like, everybody, they're all in the meth trade. They're all thieves and murderers.
Yeah.
Fuck them all. But to engage with the show as a drama, there are shades of black. Like that is what it's doing. So like, it's kind of not playing the game to just say everyone, and it's part of why Skylar freaking out about smoking pot is so silly.
Yes.
In the thing, because if you just treated crime as crime, the show doesn't work.
Yeah.
So like there's probably a pretty good, like I wouldn't let Gail off the hook. I also think out of the people who he directly works for, like he probably has less blood on his hand directly than like, Tyrus or something, or
Victor,
Mike. Yeah. Victor or Mike, like probably.
Yeah.
But in real life, don't actually start cooking meth.
Yeah. Despite what we just said in that bit a while ago,
it would make groundbreaking TV, but you shouldn't do it.
Gail is the most effective at lying to himself about what he does, but he also has the least lying to do to get there.
I think he believes his justification.
Yes.
Like, I don't know that he's lying to himself when he's like, they're adults and they get it some way.
Yeah.
I think he believes that, even if that is kind of bullshit.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Robinson says, Season 3 is when Walt and Jesse embraced their inner darkness and became the bad guys. The story became about bad guys doing bad things to other bad guys. It's also the season where the show refined its suspenseful nature and became an absolute thrill ride. It's hard to remember a lot of specifics on what happens over season 3, but the way the plot expanded into Gus's empire and large-scale meth production was exciting. I came to this show years after it aired on television, and this season showed me why the show was so popular. How often is television this riveting?
Not very.
Not very at all.
Yeah. Season 3 is where they hit their gear, right?
Yeah, I would agree with that.
Yeah.
And there is, in the great Better Call Saul versus Breaking Bad debates, one of the pieces of evidence leveraged against Breaking Bad is that it's just a thriller. It's just a crime thriller. I can't, I don't necessarily get on board with that just because a really, really well executed crime thriller rocks.
Yep.
I love that. So if you think that genre has a higher or lower ceiling on it, honorable minds can differ. But I think that Robinson is onto it. Again, the feeling at the end of, half measures and just being like, well, I got to wait a week for this is you could bottle that. Incredible shit.
Yeah.
No.
Final one here is from Jay, from the Internet podcast, co-hosted with Winslow.
Friend of the show.
Yes. Howdy, fellas. Since my niche is something awful history and you lamented not getting to experience seeing the episode Half Measures in a crowded theater, I thought I would relay the experience of participating in live watching that episode on Something Awful's TVIV subforum. Back when shows premiered in a scheduled broadcast, people would watch the broadcast and post their thoughts and reactions in real time alongside the show airing. So if you have access to the Something Awful archives, you can find live real-time reactions to just about every major TV event of that era, including all of Breaking Bad. The climax of Half Measures is incredible. Pages of shocked exclamations and single emoticon replies posted in the span of a minute as Pinkman faces down the dealers, and then the posting equivalent of a standing ovation and how agonizing the next week was going to be, waiting to find out what happened next. The event was immortalized with a custom emote of the Pontiac Aztec running over a smiley face while trailing the words, "Oh, hulky fuck," behind it, because such misspellings were common for people excitedly mashing their keyboards while not wanting to take their eyes off the screen. Season 3 was definitely my favorite in terms of discussion. It's when Breaking Bad was big enough that people knew about it, but it hadn't hit Netflix and reached the critical mass of the final season's audience. Later seasons had more active threads, but they were full of bickering over fan theories so ridiculous that nearly a decade later, when Better Call Saul concluded, there were posters still making reference to them. One of the reasons I enjoy Best Quality Vacuum is because I have a strong sense memory of where I was in my life when each episode of Breaking Bad aired. And in addition to reliving and getting perspective on the show, I relive and get perspective on my own life. I was a very lonely person at this time in my life, and this may not have been the optimal communal viewing experience, but we all know the Duckfeed line on optimal versus suboptimal, and I'm glad it means this moment of television history is crystallized in amber. Because seriously, oh, hulky fuck.
Oh, hulky fuck is the only thing to say about it. It is probably, this segues us pretty well into first and worst. If we want to do that. Yeah. Because that moment is probably the single moment that I remember the most from Breaking Bad in terms of sense memory.
Yeah.
And feeling it. That's probably my first for this episode. Half Measures gives you the speech.
Yes.
And it gives you that scene. And together that is a 1-2 punch of absolutely iconic stuff.
No.
It kills me.
Yeah. Absolutely ruins me.
Yep.
That feels like a pretty clear first.
Yeah.
Like this almost feels like 2 seasons, which makes this feel a little strange to pick up a first and worst on, Yeah. Because that's true. The first half is Hank and Skylar's story, with the investigation and with Ted, and then you end up, with the second half being all, we are in Gus's world now, kind of stuff. So it does make it a little weird. For a worst, it's kind of hard to pick, because the floor is pretty high.
The floor is real high in the season. For me, it's going to be one of the early ones where it is building tension with the cousins.
Yeah.
Maybe the second episode, the one where they kill the random lady for no reason.
Yeah, Caballos and Nombre is the one I'm kind of hovering around.
Yeah. And just with the axe and the apple bite, cute cut kind of thing, that might be, it was never a rock that was out of my shoe that they were being so stupid and like being so risky.
Yes.
I get that they're less careful than Gus and that they really care about this blood vengeance, but also like, I don't know.
Yeah.
You're going to take down the entire fucking cartel. Why are you doing this?
Yeah.
You could just rent a hotel. You have cash, like
Right.
I don't know. It's not like you're inconspicuous. That's probably my low point, or at least like in terms of plot line that was stretched over the course of several episodes. It's hard to pick out an individual episode. Yeah. That's probably the low point of like things I thought about during this season.
Yeah. Caballos and Nombre is probably like, you're just like looking at the list and the brief synopses, like that is the one that is just the most like we are setting the pieces in place, which is necessary work, but not necessarily, it is necessary, but thankless work. And, I'll lean into it being thankless, by not, rewarding it with being the best. I will just lay it there.
Shan't think it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Never a think she'll have, except for you for listening.
Thank you.
We appreciate you. If you're hearing this, the things you can do to help us out, if you like the show, is rate and review us on Apple Podcasts, Podcast Addict, tell your friends about us, post about us, and join us at patreon.com/Duckfeed.tv. And that is where you can get all of our other shows and make sure this spigot keeps going.
Yeah. If you have thoughts about season 4, write them in during season 4. Just go to duckfeed.tv/contact. There's no like particular deadline. We just take them from all across the season.
Indeed.
And finally, join us in thanking our producer, Gwen, who also composed our theme music. Thank you, Gwen.
Yes, very much. Thank you to Gwen. And until next time, even though it might be groundbreaking television and award-winning television even, don't start cooking enough.